everybody, it's Hero here. So I've got a bolster on my mat and I'm going to show you really quickly a few simple restorative gentle postures that you can include into your studio practice or even at home. Bolsters are rectangular or sometimes cylindrical cushions. So these are from Half Move in Vancouver. And there's different companies that make bolsters, and essentially it's a supported structure to help use beneath your limbs, your joints, and especially beneath your spine. A lot of the time when we practice asana practice or meditation practice, we might not have access to as many props or supports that we might normally, depending what studio, community center, gym you might be in, or maybe in a home studio like I'm just filming in right now. So being a passionate teacher of yoga, but especially the therapeutics and the gentle side of yoga as well, I wanted to show you some quick little things that you can do either with a couple fold-up blankets or even your bolster if you have one. So I will show you about maybe 5 postures or so, something just really simple you can take and play with at home. So first I'll show you is the child's pose, using a bolster underneath your torso. So you'll take the bolster between your inner thighs like you're hugging a pillow, and you'll take your knees wide and your big toes to touch, and then lay your torso down softly on your bolster. You can rest your chin. You can also rest either cheek on the bolster as well, so you have the ability here to soften. And then if you find that your neck needs to stretch the other side, you can shift to the other cheek, giving your neck and your head that support to relax. And you can hold this posture for anywhere between 5 to 10, 15 minutes. And for other modifications, if you had another prop, for example, then you can also take that other bolster, prop, blanket, so forth, and you might take a variation like this. So you have your hips elevated, your low back elevated, and then you have your torso free to hang so gravity can help stretch through the spinal column. So that's child's pose. And then you can also play with other variations of forward folding. So you could take a bolster beneath your knees, and you can have it on its second height, so it's higher, so it has more elevation, or it can be flat on the floor. So if you wanted to do like a butterfly posture with your feet touching, Baddha Konasana, you could have your knees supported on the bolster wide, and then inhale, lift your chest up. And exhale, round and fold. So this, for example, in restorative yoga, we want to make sure there's support. So if you find that you can't bring your forehead and your head all the way down to your feet, which most may not be able to, especially with injury or limited range of motion, this is when you would put another bolster beneath your forehead or a block, which I do have, but I am showing the idea of having, if you had a bolster, what you could do with that one tool. So other variations can be having your feet wide in more of an Upavishta Konasana, wide-legged, open leg, and then you can take your forehead on the highest edge of your bolster and let your palms rest up on your shins or wherever they land. If your knees are sensitive, you can bend your knees so your heels support you, toes up to the ceiling, and then maybe your bolster comes in more, and you can even give yourself a little hug. So the bolster starts to soften into your chest, and you can rest your chin and your under part of your jaw on top of the bolster. And you can hang out there again for 10, 15 minutes and so forth and breathe. If you wanted to explore a back bend, then you can take your bolster flat and lengthwise to mimic the length of your spine. Press your sacrum, your low back, right against the bolster. Have your hands on your knees to help you roll the spine down. And then as you come down on the bolster, your spine, your skull are completely supported. Some people that have sensitive low backs, you can elevate and put a rolled up towel or a blanket, or if you have a chip foam block, a rectangular yoga block, softer in cushion, that can come beneath your low back as well. Others might have your legs straight, kind of like a shavasana. You might also play with other variations like butterfly legs towards or away from your inner thighs and your sitting bones. maybe feet flat on the floor with the knees up to the ceiling. Maybe you might want to find a little bit of a hip opener and thread the needle, and then you can have that as a supported hip opener from there. And then you can switch sides. So that's one variation of a back bend, if you like. There's other ones, but I'll show you that one for now. And then to come off, you just take your forearm off to the side, roll onto your side, and you can hang out in a fetal posture. So the fetal posture, you can always take this bolster now between your thighs as a cushion, and as a way to have something for the knees to press into. And then you can lay on your side with your arm stretched out and resting your ear over your bicep. And just chill out there. You can use this as a transition for 5 breaths or even a few minutes. And then you can start to press down through your fetal posture, and you would take the other side if you like. And then you can start to come into a twist. So an elevated twist with this bolster can be back in front of you. Your right hip presses into the bolster, and your legs can either be stacked, and you might have a blanket or a towel between your knees or thighs, or you might have more of a deer shape or a spread leg shape with your lower body. And then you'll press that bolster right into your hip. The hands will come to either side of the bolster, and you'll inhale, lift and twist. And then exhale, rotate and lower down, resting your right cheek for a gentle rotation in the spine. You might take the left cheek or the chin, like you did in your child's pose, on the bolster. And then you would hold that for the desired amount of time, 5 to 10 minutes or longer. And then you'd inhale, come up. Neutralize and take your arms around your shins and then round your spine to neutralize, so let go of the twist, the rotation. And then you would take the second side. So then you can take that on your other side. Fingertips or palms, inhale, press up, twist. And exhale, lower. Left cheek comes down, arms wrap around the front of the bolster, and then there you have your other side of your twist. And you inhale, come up. Neutralize the spine. And then you can take your inversion. So with your inversion, you have one bolster. It can be as simple as coming onto your back. Use your forearms to soften your way down. Peel vertebra by vertebra back to your mat. Press down through your feet, lift and elevate the pelvis and low back, and have your bolster underneath your waist and your ilium, so your waist bone, sacrum. Some people might need it more below their sitting bones, the flesh of the glutes. Others right beneath the waist bone and the sacrum. So this is already an elevation of the low back, and this can be a supported bridge, which is another beautiful restorative posture. While we're here, I can show you can have your legs straight, which sometimes it puts too much pressure on one's pelvis and tailbone, the coccyx. So if you want to have your legs straight and get a pull through your thighs, you can bring the bolster manually down below your glutes, and that's going to give you a better support structure and not aggravate your lower back. So for the inversion, you can come into Viparita Karani, or legs into the air, legs in the sky. You can stay halfway if you find this is helpful, and then you can start to straighten the legs up to the ceiling as you start to play with how far or how close your legs draw toward or away from your front of your torso and your face. The legs can come out wide or come in. And if you also have a wall, so you can see behind or beside me the wall, you can use a wall in the same way. But if you're in a studio, in a class, or in an environment where there isn't a space for the wall, or you want this in the middle of the room, here's a simple way to do that as well. The arms can also come up, and the shoulders can soften down your back, and then your fingers can curl in. So there's that support too. And then eventually the thigh bones, your femur bones, shaped kind of like spirals, will you can internally and externally rotate your femur bones. And you'll notice for your hip sockets, wherever they may be in your pelvis, different from everybody, you can start to find where your hips naturally connect through the thighs and sink into your inversion. Things to be mindful of is that your feet, your legs might get a little tingly, they might feel a little sensitive, and that's totally okay. It's because all the venous blood and fluid from the legs that's usually stagnant as we stand all the way up tall, it gets stagnant, it stays there. So when we flip upside down, and we're not stressing the upper body to like an arm balance or a handstand or headstand like that, this is a very slow and quiet way of doing that without harming the body potentially by the upper body and the wrists or the shoulders. It's very therapeutic. And then you can bend your knees to chest, and then taking one foot down at a time, and then letting the legs chill out and soften, and then finishing in Shavasana. So you take your knees in, and then let your legs rest over the thighs over the bolster, palms face up by your sides. Some like to have their hands resting on their belly below their floating ribs for a breath connection point. You may even take your left hand over your heart, your right hand over your belly, breathing into both chambers of your diaphragm. And you hold Shavasana for as long as your body needs. There's no need to rush your rest and your integration. And when you're ready to come out from your rest, just bringing some awareness to your body. Nice cat stretch. Knees, chest, to the side and fetal for a few moments, and then pressing up back to your seat, your meditation, and that way you have that ability to close your practice. So that was a classic restorative example with the least amount of props. If you were to have one bolster or a few blankets you could stack or towels, those are some stretches out of the restorative syllabus that you can play with. And I love teaching classic, which this was traditional plastic restorative. And I also have a passion for the more active therapeutic restorative that's been passed down to me from some of my teachers and in my own learnings. So I hope you have a fantastic day, and thanks so much for watching, and be sure to visit me at my website at trueidentityproject.com and like me on Facebook, and feel free to follow me on Instagram at HeroPrince. Have a good day.